Alright, good evening ladies. In today's video I want to share exactly how I'm planning on making millions of dollars from this crypto bull cycle in 2025. And by making millions of dollars, I mean actually cashing out millions of dollars, not just reaching a 7-figure net worth, because being able to actually cash out 7 figures or multiple 6 figures from crypto is actually much harder than just reaching a 7-figure net worth. The reason being is because obviously you don't know where the top is going to be. So if you're trying to cash out, you're going to have to either perfectly sell the top or be cashing out the whole time to actually convert your portfolio into fiat. Whereas to just reach a 7-figure net worth, you just have to hold your bag and probably round trip it. So it is a completely different strategy trying to actually come out with all of those gains. So I'm going to share my plan on how exactly I'm going to go about doing that. But obviously my plan is not a one-size-fits-all. If you're just starting out at crypto, you don't know much about crypto, or you're starting with a small stack and you want to be really risky and you want to turn 10k into 200k or 500k, obviously your strategy is going to be completely different to someone who's starting out with 500k and just wants to make it into $1 million and cash that out and buy a house or something. So those strategies are completely different, and I'm going to share strategies for all portfolio sizes and for all portfolio risk strategies, and obviously also what I'm doing personally. So for me personally, my strategy and my plan hasn't changed over the last year. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I've been kind of going with this barbell strategy where my biggest positions were Bitcoin and Solana, relatively safe plays. Maybe Solana at the time when I was buying as much Solana as I could wasn't considered super safe, but yeah, I'm going with I can just show you a breakdown of my portfolio, what it kind of looks like. You can see Solana and Bitcoin are my second and third biggest positions and currently making up about 35% of my portfolio. And then, yeah, USDC and ETH are obviously, if we take them out, that's 10%. They're basically stable coins. Barbell strategy where I have some pretty safe plays and then a lot of meme coins and things that I think can go 10, 20x. Obviously, WIF being one of them, my biggest bag. That's mostly because I bought it extremely early. Same thing with Giga. And this other section is a number of different altcoins I'll go through towards the latter half of this video. So now my strategy has been, or my plan was, that once Bitcoin hits 60% dominance and has really made the bulk of its move, at that point there's no point buying any more Bitcoin. I haven't actually bought any crypto in about a year, but at this point is kind of where I'm starting to think I'm going to start converting some of my Bitcoin into some higher risk bets, or even just taking some out into fiat. So we can kind of see where we are in the cycle. And this is from Crypto Amsterdam on Twitter. Bitcoin has just broken all-time highs, and it's well above all-time highs, like 50% above all-time highs. At the time of this video, it's 100k. But altcoins, or the total others market cap, still hasn't even broken all-time highs. So this is kind of the spot where me personally, I'm converting some Bitcoin into stuff like Sui and Solana, and potentially some meme coins, potentially some other deep in AI coins that maybe we'll touch on later on in the video. So basically, what does that mean for you? If you're coming into the cycle, if you're just joining the cycle, buying Bitcoin at this point, the risk reward, in my personal opinion, unless you're willing to hold it for a few years, isn't amazing. I think potentially at some point in the next bear market, Bitcoin's price could be lower than it is today. So if you're just playing Bitcoin, you buy some Bitcoin now and you're hoping to make the max you can make, maybe is a 2x, maybe a 2.5x if things go really well. Most likely scenario, make 50% on your money and you'd probably round trip it. So buying Bitcoin now, probably not the best risk to reward in my personal opinion. I prefer going for the riskier stuff at this point in the cycle. And I know a lot of people like to say you need to actually increase your risk at the start of a move and decrease your risk at the end of the cycle. So you want to have max allocated to risky stuff at the start when the risk is lower, but towards the end of the cycle, risk becomes a lot higher and risky things are going to infinity. I've kind of just had the same breakdown or the same split the whole way through. I haven't cut any of my winners. I haven't rotated very much. I've just kept the same bags for the most part the whole cycle, because it's at the end of the cycle is when the riskiest stuff does really well. So a lot of people say, oh, you should take profits into Bitcoin. I'm kind of the other way around. I'm taking Bitcoin profits into risky stuff, and then that risky stuff, you definitely don't want to rotate that into other risky stuff. So the only thing you should be selling, the only coin that I think you should be selling into other coins are Bitcoin or Solana or Ethereum. You can go further down the risk spectrum with those coins and potentially make a multiple. Say you sell $1,000 worth of Bitcoin and put it into a meme coin, you can make like a 5x on that meme coin or something like that. Serious trap that you definitely don't want to do. If you make a huge amount of money on a meme coin, rotate that into another meme coin. Like, that's just like hot potato. Eventually, it's like playing Russian roulette. Eventually you're gonna get wiped out doing that strategy. So if you sell a meme coin, cash that out into actual fiat. Or if you sell some sort of altcoin or low cap coin and you're happy with your gains, cash that out into fiat. That's a good way to actually start cashing out. And at this point of the cycle, I'd be looking at cashing out some Bitcoin. So I'm going to be honest with you. If you're trying to make $1 million in crypto at this stage of the bull cycle, you're probably going to have to be starting with at least 6 figures. Or if you're just coming in as a newbie into crypto with 10 grand and you think you're going to be able to turn it into $1 million within 6 months, like, you need to be realistic. That's extremely unlikely. And if you go in with that kind of mindset, you're likely not to perform very well. However, if you've been through a couple of cycles, you kind of know what you're doing, you kind of have a feel for the markets, and you've been researching, you can turn a smaller portfolio into a larger portfolio. So let's talk about the strategies for someone who's starting with, a small portfolio and they want to make, 10, 20x at this point of the cycle. Like I said, you probably have to skip the majors if you want to get those kind of returns, because Solana maybe get a 3x in and around there, maybe a 4x if we're very lucky. Bitcoin, 50%. Ethereum, probably negative 50%. Just joking. But if you want to make those big returns, you need to be in the right niches, and you need to be looking at the new things popping off. You need to be locked in. You need to know what you're doing, and you need to take a lot of risk. So you need to be looking at meme coins, AI coins, DePIN, and anything that's new that's popping off, like a new layer one. Like, some examples I could share is Hyperliquid is taking off. So maybe you could buy the Hyperliquid token. But if you want a real returns, going further down the risk spectrum, you could look at Hyperliquid meme coins or projects built on Hyperliquid. And it doesn't have to be Hyperliquid. Another example would be Sui. I've been looking at Sui meme coins because obviously the boomers love Sui and they've been bidding up Sui, but boomers have no idea about meme coins. They're not going to be buying any of the Sui meme coins yet. So all the Sui meme coins are like $10 million to $50 million market caps, which is relatively very low, but Sui is pumping to infinity at the moment. So potentially there's a play there. That's just a couple of examples of how you need to think. That's where you could find those 100x opportunities. If you put in 1%, 2% of your portfolio and you get 100x on it, you've doubled or tripled your portfolio. The other thing you need to do if you're starting with a small stack and you want to be like risky, you need to be able to time the top pretty well. You need to be able to weather the storm and not be a sheep, not sell too early. Like, if you want to get those big returns, you're going to have to wait and risk round tripping quite a lot. You need to be very on the ball. You need to be looking at the sell side indicators, thinking like, okay, now we've probably topped. I need to start selling massively right now. So you need to actually, it's kind of like there is the advantage for someone who doesn't need to make a huge return, that they can start selling a little bit earlier. Even if they don't think the cycle is topped, they've already made a good return and they're happy with their returns, and they can start cashing out and converting parts of the portfolio into fiat. But someone who wants to make a huge return has to just hold all the way, and then also on top of that has to be able to sell at a good time. So that's like a double risk on top of that. So there's a real risk of round tripping, and that's what I did the last couple of cycles. My first cycle I bought the top, but the second cycle I round tripped an enormous amount of money because I kept holding, never took any profits. Obviously I'm not going to do that again this cycle, but if you do want to make those kind of unbelievable returns, you can't really be cashing out until very close, not very close to the top, but very late into the cycle, and you see things start to turn. You need to be able to get the hell out at the right time. So that's very difficult, but obviously some people can do it and it's very possible. So if you do want to make those astronomical returns, you need to be in the risky stuff, and we'll talk about what are the best stuff, and you need to be able to hold on for dear life. You need to be able to hodl to actually realize some of those returns. And the other thing you need to do if you want to make those astronomical returns, so this isn't what everyone should be doing, but actually everyone should be doing what I'm going to say, but I don't think everyone should be trying to make astronomical returns. Like, I think it's a good idea if you're starting with 10k or 20k, all right, I'm going to try and turn that into 6 figures and actually exit at a decent time, like within 30 to 40% of the top, exit and be basically all fiat by the end of the bull cycle, like be mostly out by 2026. By the end of 2025, I'm out of the markets and I'm mostly in cash and I'm ready to buy the bear market and turn that 6 figures into 7 figures in the next cycle, or convert it into Tesla stock or something like that. Double your money and then convert that Tesla stock into crypto in the bear market. Something like that. That's probably much better and much more realistic option and strategy for someone who, like, I think people who are impatient don't do as well as people who are able to see a long-term vision with crypto and see a long-term vision with investing. But obviously not everyone's starting with 10k, not everyone's starting with 1k. Some people are starting with bigger portfolios and can actually realize 7 figures, hopefully. But yeah, the other thing that you'll have to do, or not have to do, but employing some of these strategies to try and get those asymmetric returns is, like, you're going to have to do at least one, or if not all of them. But the other thing you need to be looking at is any of these new things. So in the last cycle, the new thing was DeFi early on in the cycle. You need to be able to play the DeFi summer, make a big bag. And the other new thing that popped off in the last cycle was NFTs. And yeah, I did well on NFTs last cycle. I did well on paper, never realized any of it, round tripped it to even less than what I started with. Nevertheless, you need to be locked in and try out all the new things. And maybe one or two of those new things actually becomes a really big trend. Earlier on in this cycle, the new thing was meme coins. Maybe meme coins keep going for the entirety of the cycle, but it's not super early to meme coins anymore. There might be another new thing that comes out in 6 months, and you need to be trying anything that seems interesting or might have a bit of potential. It seems completely retarded. If it seems, the stupider it seems, the more likely there's going to be alpha there. But yeah, that works a lot of the time. But yeah, you need to try all of these new things, and if you're early enough on one of these new things that turns into a big trend, then you can do very, very well. And you need to get good at that new thing. So you need to be like really good at NFTs, trading NFTs, or have bought it really, really early, like minted Bored Apes. Yeah, you would have made it then. Starting with a 10k portfolio, you could easily have turned that into a 7-figure portfolio if you minted Bored Apes. So do try all the new things, the new layer ones, getting these massive airdrops like Hyperliquid. We'll talk about that maybe a bit later. But trying new things, keeping your eye on the ball, being on crypto Twitter all the time, being in group chats, having a community, that's going to help you spot the new trends before they start popping off. The other thing I would say is to not over rotate your portfolio. You should pick your main bags. So for me, my main bags, like I've said, have been with Solana, Bitcoin for the last year, essentially. More than a year? Yeah, more than a year. Main bags have been Solana, Bitcoin, and then WIF. And then I have a load of meme coins and lower caps that I think could do really, really well. The way I like to do it is, I know a lot of people think, oh, you should be really concentrated bets and not like have a load of different coins that you're keeping your eye on. I kind of buy like maybe a few $100s or $1,000 into a coin that I think has good potential, and then I'll add to the winners from that. So I own a load of different coins, and then I'll just add to the ones that are actually taking off, because I find it hard to track coins that I don't actually own. Like, for example, if a coin that I've been watching has pumped loads and I was like, oh, I was really bullish on that, it'll be difficult for me to buy after it's already pumped, but I'll be happy if I've actually owned a little bit of it, and then I'll be like, oh, this is actually a really interesting project and it's actually catching the narrative that I thought it might. So a mistake that a lot of people make is that they'll sell their winners early. So you can see that I've had a few winners and I haven't cut them at all. I've just let them ride, let them run, and then they balloon into large parts of your portfolio, because you should actually be adding to the winners in your portfolio, not cutting them and rotating them elsewhere. Like, don't try and really outsmart the market. Follow the trends, follow what the market is telling you. If something's going up, more than likely it's going to continue going up. If something's staying stagnant, more than likely it's going to continue staying stagnant. So to make it big in crypto, like you've probably heard a lot, you need to be able to hodl. So you need to stick with your convictions. You hodl, and then when you buy it early, then when it becomes a consensus trade, that's when you can start to look at taking profits or stop buying it at least. So when everyone's like, okay, this is an amazing project, at that point you can be like, okay, there's not as much alpha here. This has become consensus. I'm going to stop adding at this point. And then when everyone's euphoric on that, that's when you start taking real significant profits or selling the whole stack. So say you're starting out with 10K and you're trying to turn that into 100K or even 200K in this bull market. Like I said, you're probably going to have to skip the majors and the high cap coins. And you're going to have to look at the meme coins, maybe put like $1,000 into this meme coin, $1,000 into this AI coin, and hopefully a couple of them do like 50x up for you and make a phenomenal return, and some of them don't go anywhere. So you can actually take quite a lot of risk if you're starting with a small portfolio. The reason being is if you round trip 10K or you lose 10K, most people can like make back 10K within a year or 6 months, 6 months or 1 year of savings, depending where you're from, 2 years of savings, or like whatever amount you don't think is like an enormous amount of money where you're like, oh God, this is my entire life savings and I'm 30 years old. So for someone starting out, you know, say you're 25 or 20 and you have like 10K, 20K, like you potentially would be able to make that back within a couple of years from working a job. So you can be a bit more risky with it. However, someone who has like 100K and has been saving diligently for 5 years, 10 years, trying to put away 100K for a mortgage, obviously you don't want to put 100K into meme coins and try and make a 10, 20x on that. You need to actually, unless like 100K, maybe you're a software engineer in Silicon Valley and you make 200K a year and you'd be able to get that back, I don't know, within 6 months because you only spend 50 grand a year or something. But most people, 100K is a huge amount of money that they would like, it would be an absolute stinker to lose that. So for people like that, you know, you kind of want to be a little bit less degen. You want to have some of the majors that you know aren't going to go to zero overnight, hopefully. So you'd have to probably put at least half of that into Solana and Bitcoin. So that's where the different strategies come in. If you're starting out with, if you're really young, you're starting out with a small stack, obviously you can take a little bit more risk than someone who has 2 kids and is looking to buy a house and is playing around with their mortgage money. So if you are starting out with a small stack, you can see that as an advantage because you can take way more risk. And on top of that, you're probably younger, you don't have kids, you don't have like maybe a super demanding job, so you can really put in the hours. You can do a lot of airdrop farming, you can do a lot of research, you can be deep within the trenches, you can be chatting with people 24/7, finding meme coin opportunities. So you can look at this in a completely different light and you can actually use this as an advantage. Like someone who has a lot of savings but doesn't have much time to study the markets, you need to have a different strategy. You need to be a bit more safer. You need to buy larger caps and just try and bank your 2 to 3 to even 4x, 5x, and just be happy with those gains. And then someone in the trenches who's just starting out, you can take a lot more risk. Okay, so obviously meme coins were the big trade of the cycle so far. Do I think meme coins are still going to be the best performer? Potentially, but I'm not 100% guaranteeing that or convinced. So right now I'm still buying some meme coins here and there, trying to, you know, make a 10x, but I'm not like putting all my money into meme coins anymore. I have a very decent bag of meme coins. Definitely don't need way more exposure to meme coins personally. And because they've done so well, like in the last cycle, I do remember meme coins kind of topped around May 2021. So that would be the equivalent of May 2025. So they topped it a little bit earlier than Bitcoin, and I'm sure some of them, not all of them topped then, but the mind share for meme coins kind of topped in the earlier part of the cycle, and there is a possibility that meme coins top in the earlier part of the cycle. And later on into the cycle, Bitcoin kept going, and a lot of altcoins reached new all-time highs in the latter part of the cycle. And the big rotation in the latter part of the cycle was NFTs went absolutely berserk. And there's obvious reasons why NFTs tend to do well at the end of a bull cycle or after crypto has pumped a lot. So I want to talk about the niches that I'm looking at outside of meme coins. Obviously, we talked about meme coins. I have big bags of meme coins. And if you want the specific coins, you can join my free Telegram or watch my previous videos on my main meme coin positions or main positions overall. But yeah, the niches that I'm looking at apart from meme coins are AI coins. I've been saying that for the entire last year. AI is the most important niche of this cycle, and I was actually wrong. It's the second most important niche. Obviously, meme coins were the most important, but AI is a really important niche to know a bit about. But you need to find your own niches and specialize in whichever niche you find the most interesting and think has the best upside. So for me, the niches I find the most interesting and think have the most upside: AI, deep in, and maybe a bit of Solana ecosystem coins, and obviously the meme coins. So I've done videos on all those niches. So if you want to learn a bit more about those niches in particular and what coins I like within those niches, I'm not going to spell it all out in this video. This video is going to be very long already, but you can watch my videos on those niches. As I was saying, the big rotation in the last cycle was into NFTs at the end of the bull cycle. So I think you need to keep this in the back of your mind. I don't think we're at the end of the bull run yet, but at some point after Bitcoin is topped, or when Bitcoin's made a gigantic run and it's kind of chilling out for a bit or has a bit of a dump, that's when you need to be looking at NFTs. The reason being, everyone on crypto Twitter, everyone in crypto is super rich. They've made a shitload of money and they want to flex and they want to show off how much money they've made. They go out and buy an NFT to be like, oh look, I can spend 10 grand on a JPEG. Oh look, I can spend 100 grand on a JPEG. Look how cool I am. That's just human nature. I think there is a good possibility that happens again. Now, obviously, the entire NFT rotation, basically all the NFT activity was on Ethereum last cycle. I do think Ethereum NFTs will come back, like Bored Apes, CryptoPunks, Pudgy Penguins. Pudgy Penguins are probably my favorite Ethereum NFT. Like risk to reward, probably the best ones. You could buy a Lil Pudgy. I think they're like 1 ETH. If you're like, not everyone has, I think they're like 20 ETH to buy a full one. I have a Lil Pudgy and some of those Pudgy rods, so they're a little bit of a cheaper entry if you want exposure to Pudgy Penguins. But I think the bigger returns are going to come from Solana NFTs because it's a wealth effect thing. So Solana went up loads. So people who bought Solana early made a shitload of money. They're more likely to flex than the people who bought Ethereum and didn't make that much money. Because I bought 1,000 Solana, I can spend, one Solana is $1,000 now, or one Solana is $500. I'm able to spend 10 grand on a JPEG. Oh, I'm able to spend 100 grand on a JPEG. That's fine to me because I made so much money on Solana and I have so many Solana. I can spend 5%, 10% of my Solana on this cool JPEG. The same thing happens with Bitcoin. And it's even more interesting on Bitcoin because ordinals are a completely new thing. So people made a shitload of money on ordinals. The market cap of Bitcoin is like 2 trillion. It's going to be 3 trillion by the end of the cycle. There's going to be like so much money locked in Bitcoin. Anyone who's on crypto Twitter who owns a bit of Bitcoin might be like, oh sure, I can drop 6 figures on a JPEG, no bother. So the main NFT projects I'd be looking at are Mad Lads on Solana. Maybe you could look at Retardios, Dinosaurs as well. And then on Bitcoin, the main one for me is Bitcoin Puppets, and there's probably a few others. The other thing you need to be looking out for is new NFTs, new ordinal projects that pop off, because that's where the huge gains will come from. But they're the two biggest ones on each chain. So it might be worth having a bit of exposure, looking at having a bit of exposure, not financial advice, to NFTs, ordinals towards the end of the cycle. And obviously you want to cash them out into fiat when they do pump. After they do pump, you don't want to just hold. Like they're probably going to go absolutely berserk at the end of the cycle. So definitely cash it out into fiat at that point. So psychology wise, you don't want to be a moon boy. You don't want to hold and round trip your whole gains. And you also don't want to be a sheep. You don't want to be selling too early. So it's trying to find that nice balance where, like me personally, I haven't really taken very many profits at all. But I'm looking to, once Bitcoin significantly breaks 100k, that's when I'm kind of being like, okay, maybe it's time for me personally to start taking some profits here, because I bought at the depths of the bear market and reached a number of my targets at that point, and it's probably wise for me to start cashing out. And then the other thing is, you don't want to be a sheep. You don't want to be scared and start say like, oh, Bitcoin's hit 100k, I need to start selling now. Like, or Bitcoin's hit 90k, I need to start selling. You need to be able to have a little bit of balls to hold into the bulk of the move, but you also don't want to be a moon boy. Oh, I'm gonna hold it all until 200k. I'm sure Bitcoin's going to 250. Someone on Twitter said it's even going to go to 300. No point selling yet. You need to find that right balance, and that comes from psychology. If you want a deeper dive on psychology, I've done a course. All the stuff that doesn't really do well on YouTube, it's stuff that's maybe not as entertaining, but it's really helpful to help your psychology and do well in the bull cycle. And that comes along free if you want to join the private cabal. And yeah, that's another thing you need. You need to have a community. well, you don't need it, but it definitely helps to have a community to be able to find these new opportunities. There's like new trades that are popping off. Like having a community is such a help. In Archival, Samurai, who's the airdrop expert, he just got a 7-figure airdrop from Hyperliquid, and he was telling us about Hyperliquid. And yeah, we listened to him, but none of us made a huge airdrop. So when you do get advice from people like your friends within Twitter or your friends within crypto, a lot of time you should really listen to them. So don't rule anyone out. Everyone might have alpha. So it definitely helps to have a community. You can join my free community, my free Telegram community. People are chatting in there every single day, looking for meme coin opportunities, and I'm kind of banging out all my ideas in there for free as well. So make sure you join there. And also, if you want the course videos, I have a few free videos that you can watch in that Telegram group as well. So like, I know not everyone wants to join a paid group, but I do have one, but I don't think it's for most people unless you're like really want to lock in and join a small knit community. It's probably not for you. If you like want to make a huge return, you probably do need a really strong community. Or if you have a 6-figure net worth and it's not a huge amount of money for you, then potentially. But if you're just starting out, you definitely don't need a paid group. But it does have a course which kind of gives like everything I've learned about investing and psychology, so it might be helpful for you. And yeah, we'll be raising the prices to join soon, and then eventually closing it completely, because there's no point having it. Now, if you do want to join, it makes much more sense to join early rather than join late in the cycle. So it definitely does help to join a community. So make friends on Twitter, be posting your ideas on Twitter, and eventually people will start interacting with you. You can DM people, ask them for advice, and I'm sure people will help you. And I'm sure everyone would like to help you in my Telegram, my free Telegram group. So jump in there, try and make a bit of connections, and people will give you good advice, and people will share good alpha with you. And the other thing you need to make sure you're doing is that you're following the right people. Maybe you don't think I'm the right person, maybe you think I'm a retardio, but it's really important that you don't follow stupid people on YouTube or stupid people on Twitter. Like, don't follow these moon boys. Like, don't follow these people with huge followings. A good place to start is my Twitter lists on Twitter. So if you go to X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, you go to my profile, you can go to my lists and you can follow the alpha list there. It's a good place to start. Most of the people in there are, pretty smart, pretty good at crypto. It's not, these people who don't really know what they're talking about but have a big following. You want to avoid those people. Maybe you think I'm one of those people. I don't know, probably am. But yeah, that's all for today's video. I hope it's going to be helpful for you. I hope I'm right, and I hope we all make millions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.